The smell of jet fuel and wet earth filled the air as his trembling fingers brushed against something cold and sticky in the wreckage. From the shadows of the fuselage, a soft scratching sound began, like nails on aluminum, followed by a whisper that wasn't the wind. He saw his own face staring back from the passenger seat, the skin waxy and pale, wearing his exact expression of terror from moments before the crash. A metallic taste coated his tongue as he realized the bodies around him weren't just victims of impact. They were being methodically rearranged. The damp Alaskan cold seeped through his clothes, but the deeper chill came from understanding. He was being hunted by something wearing the skin of the dead. Every snapped twig echoed like a gunshot in the oppressive quiet, while from the tree line came the sound of something breathing in ragged, wet sync with his own. He found a wallet in the mud containing his driver's license, his social security card, and a photo of his family. But the man in the picture wasn't him. That's when the whispering started again, this time forming words in his own voice, asking the question that would haunt every survivor. Which one of us is real? 3 years later, a man emerged from a Portland bank, wearing the identity of someone who perished on that doomed flight. This is no tale of survival, but of a violation so intimate it defies comprehension. He committed a theft beyond material possession. He didn't just steal a life. He consumed the very essence of another man. He wore its skin. David Miller was, by all accounts, an unremarkable man, and that's exactly how he liked it. His ordinary life was a carefully constructed shell, hiding something far more unsettling beneath the surface. On the surface, David was a quiet accountant from Cincinnati, a man who cherished his wife Sarah, his daughter Lily, and the steady, predictable rhythm of his days. But beneath that placid exterior, a different reality festered. The clean scent of ledgers and home couldn't mask the metallic tang of desperation. David was drowning, not in water, but in a silent, crushing tide of death. In a state of quiet desperation, David felt like a ghost in his own life, a faint pencil sketch that could vanish with one careless swipe. His existence had become a whisper, drowned out by the relentless hum of mounting pressure and financial dread. So when a last-minute, suspiciously cheap business fare flashed onto his screen, a one-way ticket to Seattle, he didn't hesitate. It felt less like a choice, and more like a silent, desperate pull from the shadows. An escape hatch he was compelled to take, a chance to pitch a desperate, long-shot client, Flight 422, as the Boeing 737 clawed its way over the jagged, snow-dusted peaks of the Alaskan range. An unnatural calm settled over David. He was seated next to another man, roughly his age, whose presence seemed to leach the warmth from the recycled cabin air. A faint, metallic scent, like cold iron, lingered where there should have been none. They exchanged polite, stiff nods in the dim light. He introduced himself as Michael Price, a graphic designer visiting from London. The air between them felt unnaturally still, carrying the faint scent of ozone. Their mirrored appearances, the similar build, the matching hair, created a silent, unsettling symmetry. In the dim cabin light, they could have been cousins. Then, a low groan shuddered through the fuselage, rattling teeth and nerves. The air grew heavy with the acrid scent of ozone as warning panels flared crimson. Then, catastrophe. A catastrophic mechanical failure tore the plane apart in midair. Chaos erupted. Scream, tearing metal, the rushing wind swallowing all other sound. Then, abrupt silence fell, thick and absolute. The white faded to reveal a wide, desolate shot of a snowy, wooded mountainside, utterly still. The wreckage lay scattered like a child's forgotten playthings. Search teams combed the frozen hellscape, recovering what remained. The passenger manifest was definitive. No survivors. Yet the metallic scent of blood lingered in the frigid air. For the world, the story was over. But in that silent, white forest, something unnatural was just beginning. The air grew heavy with the scent of ozone and cold earth. A low, resonant hum vibrated through the ground, felt more than heard. Then, a sharp, wet crack echoed, shattering the stillness. David awoke to a cold so sharp it burned like fire, broken ribs protesting with each shallow breath. He found himself huddled in a makeshift shelter of twisted debris, wrapped in a torn, blood-stained blanket. The metallic scent of blood mixed with the damp rot of decaying wood filled his nostrils. His gaze fixed on the wallet in his trembling hands, its contents unknown but somehow crucial. But he was alive. He'd been thrown clear, cushioned by pine boughs and deep snow. For days he fought. He drank melted snow, each swallow tasting of iron and pine sap. The cold seeped into his bones, a deep, aching dampness that never relented. At night, he heard only the creak of settling snow and the distant scratch of branches. David scavenged stray peanuts and shattered pretzels from the wreckage. Then his fingers brushed something cold and still. It was Michael Price, his seatmate, whose luck had run out. Beside the body, David's hand closed around a leather wallet. Michael stared at the driver's license, his own face staring back from the plastic. Beside it lay credit cards embossed with unfamiliar names, their metallic strips catching the dim light. A stack of photographs revealed strangers in mundane settings. A park bench, a grocery aisle, a living room he didn't recognize. The air grew heavy with the scent of ozone and old paper, a tangible wrongness settling in the room. In the fractured reflection of a fuselage panel, David's bloodied face stared back. Through the hypothermic fog clouding his thoughts, a scheme crystallized, both monstrous and ingenious. To the world watching from afar, David Miller had perished in the crash. His crushing debts, his old life, all of it was now erased. His failed life? Over. But Michael Price was expected somewhere. Michael had a history, a bank account, a future. As David's body deteriorated, his mind seized this new identity like a final lifeline. He began to practice in the Whispering Pines, forcing a British accent as he spoke to Michael's photograph. The damp, earthy scent of decaying leaves filled the air around him, mingling with the metallic taste of his own fear. David. Right. The bush pilot finally spotted the thin, desperate plume of his signal fire. But when the rescue team reached the clearing, they didn't find David Miller. They found a hollow-eyed survivor, curled in the damp undergrowth, his hands caked in dirt and sap. He flinched from their touch, his breath hitching in ragged gasps, repeating one name into the cold, still air. Michael. Michael Price. The lie became a parasite, burrowing deep into his psyche. In Portland, where a cousin lived, Michael claimed severe amnesia from the trauma. A perfect cover. Every threshold, doors, windows, even reflective surfaces, held his terrified gaze, a silent testament to the dread he carried. He studied Michael's life through social media and hesitant conversations with the cousin, meticulously adopting his mannerisms, his taste in music, even his laugh. But the physical toll of the crash manifested in strange ways. A nervous tic emerged, a constant, slight tremor in his left hand that he couldn't control. It was a foreign pulse beneath his skin, a quiet betrayal of the body he was trying to inhabit. David's allergies had vanished, but Michael's severe peanut allergy became his own psychosomatic reality. His body was rejecting his own history, rewriting itself to align with the fiction he'd created. At a crowded party, Michael forced a laugh that sounded hollow and metallic. His eyes darted wildly, scanning the room as if the very air around him carried a forgotten threat. He spots a woman who looks exactly like his wife, Sarah, and freezes completely. He existed in a state of perpetual dread of the ordinary, an innocent query about a childhood street he'd never walked, a friend from university whose name he couldn't recall. Each was a potential trapdoor beneath his feet. Every knock at the door carried the threat of police, or worse, the ghost of Sarah and Lily seeing their husband and father wearing a stranger's stolen face. After 3 years, Michael Price's father passed away, leaving a small inheritance locked away in a safety deposit box here in Portland. Now, in the bank, a nervous Michael stood before the stern manager, trying to access that very box. The air in the room grew thick and heavy, carrying the faint scent of old paper and polished brass. A primal dread took hold as she scrutinized him, the silence broken only by the distant hum of the vault's machinery. It was the final key to cementing the lie. But the bank manager was thorough. A faint scent of old paper and disinfectant clung to the air as he studied the documents. Bank manager. You've been through a lot, Mr. Price. The crash, the amnesia. It must be agonizing, trying to recall something as intimate as a signature. The clerk demanded a second form of identification he couldn't produce. Then came the detailed security questions. Arcane personal trivia, established by the real Michael years before. Each query hung in the sterile air, a silent trap snapping shut with every failed answer. David's composure crumbled, his practiced accent dissolving into raw panic. The tremor in his hand escalated into a violent, uncontrollable shake. Then the manager spoke. 3 simple words, and the air thickened with the scent of ozone and cold dread. His carefully constructed reality splintered, leaving only a hollow, whispering void where certainty once stood. The bank manager leaned in, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Your file has an annotation, sir. The air in the small office grew thick, tasting of old paper and dust. From your father, a sudden, metallic scent, like cold iron, seemed to permeate the space. He updated it after the crash. The manager's next words came out as a hollow breath. He never believed you died. The note read, if my son is alive, ask him about the song I sang to him when he broke his arm at age 7. He'll know. The words seemed to leach the warmth from the room. The air grew heavy, thick with the scent of old paper and dust. A primal dread took hold, rooting him to the spot. His breath hitched, a sharp, quiet sound in the stillness. David stared, paralyzed by the unknown horror those simple words implied. The air grew thick, as if the room itself had exhaled its last breath. He had studied Michael's life meticulously, but never this intimate, secret core. This was a deep, resonant chord of love he had never sensed. He had stolen the outline, but the music within remained forever out of reach. The fiction shattered against a wall of pure, unassailable truth. The man who had survived a plane crash finally, truly, died in that quiet bank office. David. I don't know. The air in the room grew thick, smelling faintly of stale paper and cold metal. A final, quiet surrender. His breath hitched, the sound the only thing cutting through the oppressive stillness. The camera slowly pulls back, leaving him a solitary, broken figure in the cold light, the conclusion written not in words, but in the profound emptiness of his stare. CUT. to a stark police interview room. David looks diminished, aged beyond his years. He confessed everything, not to theft, but to a spiritual murder-suicide. The world was first horrified, then morbidly fascinated. Finally, a cold, hollow pity settled over the public consciousness. David Miller was alive, but the man he had been was gone, erased by trauma and choice. And Michael Price? He was violated in a way beyond the grave. His memory turned into a puppet, a hollow echo of a life stolen. Then, a recent grainy photo. David, released on parole, trudging down a street with his head down and shoulders hunched. He served time for fraud, yet his true prison was the one he carried inside, a ghost haunting two families. To his original family, he's a lingering, painful memory. To Michael's, he's a monstrous imposter who stole a life. So here's the question that keeps me up at night. The question for you. When he looks in the mirror, who does he see? He didn't just lose himself in the wilderness. He deliberately left a part of himself behind. The air grew thick with the scent of damp earth and the faint, coppery tang of something else. Every snapping twig and rustle in the undergrowth now felt like a whispered question from the thing he'd abandoned. He had survived, but at a cost so profound, the very woods seemed to hold the ghost of his payment. And what he brought back was something else entirely. The air grew heavy with the scent of ozone and something metallic, like old pennies. A low, wet sound began, like something breathing through thick liquid. He didn't recognize his own face in the glass anymore.